Okay guys, we're gonna do a fire annotate, where we're gonna reteach this essay unit. So let's get some color pencils and highlight keywords, description, analyze, interpret, and judge. These are the 4 paragraphs of your CD cover assignment and the missing essay that so many people have to work on. You need to talk about at least 2 elements of art in your paragraph, if not more, where you describe everything you see. The key question here is, what do I see? So you're going to describe everything you see in your painting, your CD cover. Now in the second paragraph, talk about at least 3 principles of design. You could start with emphasis. What's the focal point? How do you know? How is it unified? How does it come together? And then maybe balance, or any of these. But the key question here is, how is the work organized? How is the work organized? Okay, so you're talking about the design, and you need to explain with evidence. And you're going to explain how the artist creates a sense of unity and cohesiveness in the work, right? So that's one of the principles of design. How does everything come together with repetition, with a limited color palette? Whoa, that's too close. Okay, and then the focal point helps with emphasis. So where does your eye go? How do you know? And then the type of balance, right? So these are like the 3 principles that I recommend that you talk about. So first, where does my eye go? How is it all together? Is it balanced? Does it have an even amount of visual weight? Explain with evidence. So balance has to do with visual weight. Okay, so that's paragraph 2. So describing everything you see, how is it organized? Okay, moving on. For interpretation, you're explaining how the artist is trying to communicate a theme, okay, a message. Okay, so what is the artist trying to communicate is the key question. What is the artist trying to communicate? Okay, that's your key question. So what are they trying to say? Like, what are they saying? Okay, mood, like, is it a dark mood? Is it a light mood? What do the different visual metaphors symbolize? What does everything represent? I'm at a coffee shop and they're dragging tables. It's kind of funny. Maybe there's a story, right? They're like, someone's saying something, like they're telling a story through this. And interpretation, you could back it up with some research, but it really should be your idea of a theme and a mood. Okay, but yes, you can use research, but I want to hear your words. Okay. Bear with me, guys. Judgment. Okay, so this is where you decide, is this a good work of art? And depending on the year, have we gone over aesthetic theories yet? That's something we need to teach, because all art has different purposes, different intentions. And this is fun. This is where you get to say your opinion. To what degree is this a good work of art? For the debate project, you'll obviously be arguing that your work is the best. Okay? So going ahead, zooming out. Zooming out. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. This is the rubric. Pause the video, turn to your partner. What are the main questions? What do I see? How is the work organized? What is the artist trying to communicate? Is this a good work of art? Okay, quick pause, go crazy. Later on, as soon as we get all the books together, you will be reading Asher Lev. This is the reading schedule. We need to start reading as soon as possible if we're gonna finish this book by spring break. So, if you could go ahead and anticipatory set, find the contract for me. I swear to gosh, there was a contract in this packet. Oh yeah. Okay, your name, the date. You can leave this blank. You don't know what condition it is. So leave that part blank, but write your name, the date, and go ahead and sign your name there. Give me your author or your autograph. All right, that's not really my signature. Just kidding, it is. Okay. So, to get ready for this unit, we're gonna look at an exemplar, but first we need to look at the work. Okay, so this is the work. This is called the drawing lesson, right? So what do I see? I'm gonna just go ahead and take a moment to label. I see a student right here. I see a teacher, an art teacher. So I see a teacher here. Right, and I see a child. Maybe that's another student. Are there two students? Two students. There's a lot of light coming in from here. Light, which helps everything to be 3D. 3D form. There are a lot of like props all over. So there's an art canvas. Okay, there's a portfolio. This is clearly like an artist studio. This is a sculpture. So this is telling the story of a teacher trying to have an influence on the student. I don't know, my eye goes right to the student, but then her eye goes to the lesson, right? And the demonstration he's giving. There's like drawing materials everywhere. Everything's kind of pointing to the focal point being the lesson. Right, so this is emphasized, this experience. First my eye goes here and then it goes to the lesson. So this would be the focal point. So when you're doing your CD cover, right? Or when you're doing a drawing about anything that you're gonna have a debate on, like doing a drawing will help you to notice things. Like notice how the side of the shelf is creating convergent lines going to the focal point. The drapes are kind of pointing down. We have this weird floating baby statue. So much of this class is about observing. We have a tennis racket, so maybe this is an abandoned hobby that she left behind. So describing everything I see, I think it's visually balanced. This is the line of symmetry down the middle. And then it's unified. Can't see the color palette here, but there's repeated objects, repeated statues that pulls me. No one knows. Okay, a lot of different statues. The repetition of these statues and the art materials and just the objects helps to like bring unity. We have groups of things around that help everything our focus to kind of be pulled in. And the focal point is isolated. Yeah, and they're clear groups. It feels very together and cohesive because of the repetition. Okay, so I think I've observed it enough. This is the drawing lesson by Jan Steele. So when I'm looking at an exemplar with students, I like to go ahead and I like to divide the essay into 2 sections. So let's make a little key. Evidence. Now that's anything that is a fact. Fact. And then analysis. That is an opinion. That is your opinion. That's when you're speaking about what you think, your thoughts on the evidence. What do you think? Okay, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a box around art vocab. And then, we haven't done this yet, but we're gonna put a bracket around something called transitions. Transition words are phrases. And a transition is something that kind of links your ideas together. Okay? Because we're working with colored pencils today, because I need to order more. I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna make all of my analysis blue. You could pick whatever color you want. And then I'm gonna try to make my evidence yellow. Let's see if I have enough. Okay, so here we go. Go crazy. Okay, lifting this up just a little. Here we go. In the oil painting, believe it or not, this is kind of like a transition phrase, and this is the medium, right? So you should talk about the medium that the art is. In the oil painting, the drawing lesson. Okay, so this is the title. Jan Steele, that is the artist. We don't have space to write. Depicts. Okay, so this word depicts means like shows. Okay, so you could all use this phrase, right? Where this sentence, where you do the medium in the drawing lesson, the artist depicts, to start your CD cover or whatever. A male artist instructing 2 pupils, a fashionably dressed young woman and a young boy. Okay, that's a fact. That's what's in the painting. The lesson is presumably taking place within the art teacher's studio. Okay, this is an opinion. Like what you think. Because the room, and then you're explaining why with evidence. The room is filled with plaster models that an art teacher would have. Plaster faces, 1 plaster foot, and a plaster cow hang near the window where the light enters the studio. A plaster angel hangs from the ceiling. Okay, that's all. This is all fact. Also, okay, so this is transition, or like additionally. I am out of ink, guys. So also, a 2-foot tall male sculpture rests near the window. It is this sculpture that the artist is presumably drawing. Now, this is an opinion. We don't know for sure. So you're kind of starting to interpret here as you describe. And the woman admires his skills. Steele creates a sense of spatial depth by including a foreground in the background in front of the blanket and a background containing a horizon line with an art easel. So this is like interesting. This, I think, is an opinion, but you're bringing in a dominant element of art, spatial depth, by including, and then you're explaining why. including a foreground. This is an art vocab. Foreground in front of the blanket and a background containing a horizon line with an art easel. Into the unknown. In the front. The art easel is purposely smaller and surrounded by lighter values. Okay, I feel like that could be an opinion and a fact. But I'm going to call that, the art easel is smaller would be a fact, surrounded by light values, fact. So if you're doing description right, it's mostly evidence. You're basically just saying what you see. On the other hand, that would be a transition phrase. In the foreground, so foreground means front. Foreground means front. In the foreground, the drawing lesson appears to be surrounded in mostly dark values. So we're talking about values. So we're talking about value, lights, mediums, and darks, and space. Due to the blanket hanging behind the three figures. Okay. So many facts. The art teacher and the two students. This is a colon when you're about to list two important things. Steal, who's steal again? The artist, right? So notice how we refer back to steal. Also create, so what does the artist do? Perspective, art word, with a pile of objects on the floor. These objects appear to be closer because there's more texture and detail in the trunk, portfolio, and canvas. So these are all facts. Maybe it's an opinion that the objects appear to be closer. It could be murky. Steel creates perspective with a pile of objects on the floor. I would say that's an opinion, but mostly facts, right? So it's your opinion, like that certain elements of art are dominant or stronger are coming forward. Okay, so that's paragraph 1. That is description. Just describing everything you see with the elements of art. What do you see? And then the main elements of art would be, let's like mark some key art vocabulary in red. The main elements of art that they talked about was texture, value, and then space, right? And notice how they really explained it with like these smaller vocabulary words, right? So you have this, I'm gonna turn the page, but when you're writing your CD cover today and picking your painting, okay, you have this like this vocabulary right here. Like this vocabulary like really is your friend, right? So really have that out when you're writing your CD cover. Okay, so I'm just so you know, I have it right next to me, you know, as I'm marking off vocab. So again, what do you see for description, right? And this one, you're going to talk about elements of art. This is all in paragraph 1. Okay? All right, let's go a little deeper. Okay, analysis. All right, we get right into it. So the focal point, so this is emphasis, right? We're going to talk about what is emphasized. That's the focal point of the composition, right? So you could talk about your work by saying composition is the artist who is drawing. Ooh, I kind of disagree with that. I think it's the lesson. I hardly even look at the artist because he's a dark value. Okay, so is this a fact or an opinion? This is an opinion, right? But we start out by talking about emphasis. Where does our eye go first? Oh, he. Steal, who's Steal? Steal is the artist. creates the focal point, emphasizes, maybe I would even say emphasizes instead of creates, emphasizes the focal point by placing another of bright points of interest, by placing another bright point of interest around the artist. So we're saying that there are two focal points. The two students who are staring at him, causing us to look at the drawing. And the angel sculpture creates a converging line. I'm going to correct this writing. This should be a different sentence. The angel sculpture creates a converging line going down towards the drawing activity. Okay. Furthermore, bracket. Let's all stop. Most of this is an opinion. Okay. Yes, there are two students who are staring at him, but we're all being opinion-based right now. Causing us to look at the drawing, that's still an opinion. You could argue it's kind of factual. Okay, so there is an angel sculpture, but the fact that it creates a converging line towards the drawing activity, it's pretty factual, but it's also an opinion. Furthermore, steel creates a focal point. Wow, we're talking about emphasis a lot in this paragraph. Because the top and bottom of the canvas and the edge of the shelf in the foreground creates converging lines. Okay, so if you remember, I talked about that when I was annotating, how everything is pointing towards the focal point. And so those lines, these lines that I was drawing are converging lines. Like all of the edges, it's kind of like 1 point perspective. Creates a focal point because the top of it is a foreground converging lines. Still all opinion. I mean, obviously he creates a focal point. I'm going to say that's a fact. That's a big thing, is the strong focal point in this piece. Top and bottom of the edge creates converging lines, pointing in the direction of the artist. I mean, it's a fact that it goes in the direction of the artist. The work is unified. Okay, new principle of design. So you talk about where I goes first. Why is it all together? Why is it one? So the artist is unified. The work is unified because, so it's a fact that it's unified, I would say. But explaining why. The points of interest are surrounded by dark values. Okay, that's a fact. Everything's surrounded by dark values. There's a hanging blanket, dark wall, various shadows. The dark values, along with around the point of interest, create a lot of contrast. So contrast is a word we didn't know. Contrast means difference. There's a lot of difference. It really pops. Darks and lights. Creates a lot of contrast, especially around the artist who is wearing a white hat. And this is a fact. So we're going to look at that white hat. The blanket is black. So they're saying like difference, like white versus black are juxtaposed. This causes the viewer's eye to gravitate towards the artist. Okay, that's an opinion. But we're going to look at the artist because the artist has this bright white hat on. So we got to look at the colored version. Maybe I'm wrong about the focal point. Okay, dark values creates a lot of contrast. That would be a fact. I'm shocked at how many facts there are. Okay, we talked about 3 principles of design like the rubric said. Contrast is a principle of design. In order to make this paragraph better, I would have talked about visual balance. Like, is it even on both sides? But this is a pretty solid paragraph 2. So this is paragraph 2. And again, the key question for paragraph 2 is how is it organized? How is it organized? Okay, how is it organized? Cool? Okay, 3, interpretation. Okay, so interpretation is, so we talked about the principles of design in paragraph 2, emphasis, contrast, unity, balance, rhythm, principles of design. That was second quarter. Now interpretation, we're talking about what is the artist trying to say? So this is mostly opinion, so it should be mostly blue. What is the artist saying? So here's a great sentence starter. I believe that the artist, Steele, is trying to communicate, Steele, that a fine arts education inspires students to achieve greatness. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful theme. Art. So this is the theme. The theme is further supported by, you could take this, you can use this in your CD cover sentences today. The theme is further supported by the visual metaphor of the, oh dang, it's on the back of here, of the painting on the right side of the composition. So again, we're talking here about visual metaphors. So let's call this an art vocab word, right? Like the key words I should see in this paragraph are visual metaphors, theme. Okay, so I believe that the artist is trying to communicate that fine arts education inspires students to. The theme is further supported by the visual metaphor. Of the painting on the right side of the composition surrounded in light. Okay, the light, so the composition, the painting on the right side is surrounded by light, that's a fact. The light in the painting represents knowledge and progress. Okay, this is an opinion, right? But we're connecting back to the theme. We're saying what something represents. So we're saying why, we're explaining the topic sentence. Oh my gosh, I was off camera that whole time. Okay, so this is evidence. And this is the, I'm going blank. This is an opinion. Okay, so evidence, opinion. The darkness represents a state of not knowing and ignorance, right? So key ideas. So ignorance, knowledge, progress. The mood of the painting is inspiring because even though the characters are surrounded by dark values, the act of teaching art brings light into the room. Okay, so yes, there's light coming in the room, but we're sneaking in our opinion here, explaining the theme. The light is literally created by the window. That is a fact. Lighting the face of both students, fact. But figuratively, the light on their face represents the knowledge on their face that they are gaining. The story is therefore one of a teacher. So we're talking about narrative here. Is one of a teacher giving knowledge down to his students. So I don't agree with this word down, but giving knowledge. But the fact that that is the story, that still is an opinion, but it's very factual. Like that's kind of what we're seeing, so it's murky. Perhaps both students struggle to meet success in school, but learning how to draw is giving them self-confidence that they didn't already have. All opinion, this is all interpretation. This story is supported by the evidence of the students' eyes. Their eyes are wide and open. Okay, that's a fact. Hungry for knowledge. Now that's an opinion, that they care about the knowledge. Their mouths are open in astonishment. Okay, the fact that their eyes are open in astonishment, maybe they're just yawning, at which the artist can achieve with little effort. So this is an opinion. Okay. Sorry, I'm really worried that part of this video wasn't on camera. Let's see. Judgment, last one. Judgment. Okay. So what is the artist saying, right? So we basically are explaining a theme with evidence, explaining visual metaphors. We're explaining things like mood, right? And story, like what is the narrative? And we're explaining why we think those things by saying what the different metaphors represent. Okay, so judgment. Is this a good work of art? Okay, I believe that this is a somewhat excellent work of art because of the way that the artist is using a light source, shadows, and paint brush strokes to create form. So to make something look 3D. The three main subjects of the painting, the folds of their clothing and the paint brushes on the table, the sculptures, and all the surrounding visual metaphors on the floor seem absolutely three-dimensional. Okay, so I believe that this is somewhat a good work of art. Okay, this is all opinion. Somewhat, because of the way the artist uses a light source, that's a fact, shadows, paintbrush strokes, and it's a fact that it's a very 3D painting. The three main subjects of the painting, the folds of their clothing, paintbrushes on the table, sculptures, all of the surrounding metaphors on the floor seem absolutely three-dimensional. So it's your opinion that it's three-dimensional, but it's tricky. It's pretty factual. So it seems like they're saying that it is so good because it's so 3D. Due to the slow transition of value, the artist carefully moves from hues to darker shades. Okay, so that's all a fact, right? Going light to dark. The artist does that with like changing its paint values. If Steele's intention was to create a life, so intention is like why the artist is doing it. Why the artist is making the work, which has to do with aesthetic theories. Why is the artist making the work? If the intention was to create a life-like work of art, then when judged through the lens of imitationalism, okay, crap. So this is an aesthetic theory. So maybe I do need to teach this today. Imitationalism is an aesthetic theory, right? So this is why the artist is creating the work, right? So we will learn about aesthetic theories then. It is neat and perfect, right? So aesthetic theory, imitationalism means it looks like a photo. That was the intention. Like it is so well painted, that's why it's a good work of art. Even the hands of the artist and the hands of the female student seem to be painted perfectly. Okay, I would say that's an opinion though. Yet, if Steele's purpose was to communicate a message and to inspire students to create more art, then the painting falls short. So interesting. So we're talking about two different purposes, right? So if the purpose was to create a photo, like something that's like a photo, then it's good. And if Steele was to communicate a message and to inspire students to create more art, then the painting falls short. What? Even though the act of the drawing lesson is supported. All right, so this is such an interesting paragraph, right? Because we say it's somewhat good. So it's good because it looks like a photo. It's painted well, but the message, it falls short. So this is the positives of the painting. This is the negatives of the painting. You could divide your fourth paragraph into that. Is this a good work of art? Again, this is paragraph 4. Is it a good work of art? Why or why not? Even though the act of drawing and the lesson is supposed to be the focal point, so much attention is taken by the putrid, oh my gosh, this is a hilarious. Putrid means throw up. It's like a throw up color. The throw up dark green and orange blanket in the background. It's difficult to know really where to look since the eye is distracted by the blanket and the strange angel baby. This is all opinion. saying that the blanket looks like vomit and there's a strange angel baby hanging above the lesson. Regardless, it's difficult to argue that this painting is a superb work of art that is painted perfect perspective, completely three-dimensional and stunningly realistic with detailed textures and patterns. Wow. So it's saying like there are some problems with the work, which I love. That makes this paragraph super strong because it's being real and straight up. Okay, guys, I really hope everything was on camera. But this was a video where we went ahead and we looked at an example of a DAIJ for paragraphs on the drawing lesson. Okay. And we also went over the rubric and annotated the drawing lesson. I hope this is useful.